Two new supervillain spin-offs are now available on various streaming services, and I've got my thoughts on both of them right now. This episode is brought to you by Factor. Go to factormeals.com/Murrell50 and use code Murrell50 for a special offer, and stay tuned after the video for more info. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my thoughts on the premiere episodes of two spin-offs to major film franchises, one Marvel and one DC, both of which premiered within a day of each other. And let's start with the one that premiered a couple of days ago over on Disney+, which is Agatha All Along, the spin-off from WandaVision, the very first MCU streaming series. This week brought us the first 2 episodes of the show, 2 episodes of 9. It appears the show is scheduled to wrap up with a 2-episode finale on the night before Halloween. Some critics saw the first 3 episodes, but I watched along with everybody else. The series was created and the first 2 episodes were directed by Jack Schaefer, also the creator of WandaVision, and you can sense the continuity there. I think it was smart to bring Jack Schaefer back, or for her to pitch this as a follow-up project, because it does feel like part of the same story. I wasn't really that excited by the idea of an Agatha Harkness show, but it's not just about the concept, it's about the execution. I mean, I wasn't that excited by Rogue One either, and it was one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Agatha All Along, or one of the many other names that it was known by, has been in development for about 3 years, and I was a little concerned going in that this could just be an after product or a byproduct of the more streaming heavy phase of Disney Plus and the MCU, that this would be burned off, kind of like we saw with Echo at the very beginning of this year. But I actually found myself really enjoying these first couple of episodes. Episode 1 carries over the genre semi-spoof vibe of WandaVision as Agatha, still trapped in Wanda's spell and without her powers, imagines herself in a true detective-style show called Agnes of Westview. I like how they provided a little commentary here, a little humor about that true detective style and the way that it seemed to just permeate almost every cable crime drama for about 10 years or so.
These cases are always about the place. The specific small town, the history of it, the people in it, the secrets buried beneath it. That's where the answers lie.
Agatha seems to be investigating the murder of Wanda Maximoff, and at first it seems like the show is confirming that she's dead, but the fact that a body only shows up in Agatha's fantasy, along with Rio playing coy about her death, makes me suspicious.
How did she die?
Wrong question. That witch is gone.
Now, Agatha is broken out of this spell by a wannabe witch, warlock, who is conveniently unable to tell her anything about his past.
Who are you?
My name is...
Which I'm sure means that he is a character who's totally unrelated to anybody or anything in the MCU, and they're definitely not saving that for some big reveal sometime in the last, let's say, 2 or 3 episodes. Teen is played by Joe Locke, whose other major role has been in Netflix's Heartbreaker. I haven't seen that show, so this is the most I've seen of him, but I like him in the part. I think he makes a good sidekick and a good audience surrogate for somebody that's just entering this world. I also really loved how the show visualized Agatha breaking out of the spell, cycling through all of her looks from WandaVision. I think it was a good way to make that moment dynamic and also serve as kind of a previously on for people that may not remember a show that aired almost 4 years ago. The first episode ends with a big showdown between Agatha and Aubrey Plaza's Rio, and it's obvious that these two have a history.
You don't have a heart.
Yes, I do. It's black. And it beats for you.
Then the episode ends with a Disney Plus trademark, the extremely abrupt early series cut to credits.
Oh, right. You.
Really, I wish that they had just made this a 1-hour series premiere instead of awkwardly cutting it into 2 episodes, but I guess that cuts down on the value that some Disney Plus subscribers feel like they're getting. I don't know, I'm sure they got 10 whole rooms at Disney devoted to figuring this kind of stuff out. Episode 2 introduces Wanda's coven as she tries to find the Witch's Road, which she must walk and survive along with her coven members in order to get her powers back. And I like how comedy forward this show is. We all know that Kathryn Hahn is funny. I think that's one big reason why she got her own spin-off show. But I think having Patti LuPone, Sashir Zamata, and Deborah Jo Rupp along for the ride provides a nice balance of other different comedic energy. I'm not really familiar with Ali An, so I look forward to getting to know her character more, as well as the actress who plays her. Also having all the witches be disgraced and needing something at the end of the Witches Road gives this show kind of a Wizard of Oz vibe. Everybody has their own defined goal, which I think is going to help you track their progress. And it also is an easy way to differentiate these characters, give you a little bit of their backstory, and do it in a way that doesn't seem too plotty, for lack of a better word. The Salem 7 are so far pretty formidable and scary villains. There are points where this episode goes into straight up horror, and I have to admit that they got me with the fake out of them coming down the chimney only to burst through the window to grab Teen. It was a great climactic sequence to the second episode as we cut between the Ballad of the Witches Road and the unstoppable approach of the Salem 7. Generally, I thought that this was a really strong first 2 episodes. It drew me into the story and made me curious about what's ahead. I like the style. I think it's well cast. And Kathryn Hahn is a good leading actress to carry the show, especially its humor. Now, it's not unusual for a show, or a movie for that matter, to be able to set things up in an engaging way and then lose momentum as it goes. So we'll see what Agatha All Along does as it goes through its episode count. But so far, it's gone from a show that I was very skeptical about to one that I'm actually looking forward to watching week after week, or at least next week. This could have felt like an empty attempt to spin off a viral moment from almost 4 years ago into its own show, but it feels more established early on than a lot of other MCU shows. So far I'm giving Agatha All Along a rating of it's good. Next up, we have our second villain show of the week, The Penguin, which got a bump up from a Max-only streaming show to a show that's going to be on Max, as well as airing on the HBO linear network. That might be a sign that Warner Bros. Discovery has some faith in it and wants to get it out to a wider audience. On a style and production level, this doesn't really seem like a cheaper version or a big drop-off from the Batman. Gotham is in crisis after the city was flooded, which leaves a power vacuum in the underworld after the death of Carmine Falcone. And opening the show with Penguin's murder of the heir apparent, I think was a good choice, and I like that it wasn't a calculated move on his part. It was an impulse action that he took without really thinking through the consequences. And I like that the Penguin that we get in this show isn't particularly great at being a crime boss or even a criminal. We actually get to follow his progression as a character and not just going up the ranks, up the rungs to the ladder to be a crime boss. We get to see him grow and develop, and I think that's important when you center a show around a villain, even if it's a villain that a lot of people are already familiar with.
Al never told me he was back. Or that you ran on this thing with us. Yeah. Well, he's keeping us both in the dark, and I don't know why.
I really still have a hard time believing that Colin Farrell is under all that makeup. If you were to ask me to guess what actor that was, I probably would say Tom Hardy. It's a completely immersive performance, which works in the favor of the show because I'm not sitting on the couch thinking, oh yeah, it's Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. I'm sitting there thinking that I'm actually watching the Penguin because he's so unrecognizable from anyone else in any other show or movie that I've seen before. And this is a desperate guy who's losing power, not gaining it. It's not until the very end of this first episode that we see a glimmer of the criminal mastermind that he'll become. Of course, as with most villains, he has mommy issues, but I liked the scene, even though we've been in this territory before, where she talks him out of running and basically tells him to step up and stop allowing himself to be bullied.
This city is meant to be yours, sweetheart. What are you gonna do to get it?
It's obvious that he has a traumatic past, and I think the series is going to show us some of that as the episodes go on, but taking him back to that childlike moment and then having him come out of it with a new resolve is again a great way to show the growth of the character and not just have him start as being, I'm the Penguin. I was a big fan of Kristen Milioti coming out of Palm Springs back in 2020, and I've been surprised that she didn't pop up in more things between now and then. And I love what she brings to the character of Sophia Falcone, someone who obviously has great instincts, but also is forced to question them due to her actual insanity. She knows who the Penguin is more than anybody else on this show, and really he's only saved by the good timing and execution of his backup plan from being an early victim of that intuition that Sophia Falcone has. I think she's going to be a very formidable opponent for him throughout the series. And when it comes to the Falcone family, we lost John Turturro in the Batman, but we gained Clancy Brown in the Penguin as the incarcerated rival Sal Maroni. At first, I thought it was kind of stupid of Penguin to visit him in jail and propose this double cross.
I know who you are. I know what you are. And I work with people whose loyalty is for sale.
But he either planned ahead or was able to spin the situation in his favor, and I'm looking forward to this proxy gang war that he's now started.
Maybe I'm more than what you think.
Instead of filling this vacuum in the Gotham underworld, he's trying to create an even bigger one and see if he can be the last person standing. I think he's realized that he can't outsmart these two families, but maybe he can outlast them. And when we talk about Carmine Falcone, he is dead. He died in the Batman, but apparently John Turturro will not be returning to play the character in flashback scenes, and instead we're going to get Mark Strong. I love John Turturro, but I love Mark Strong too, so I'm excited to see him stepping into that role. Giving Penguin a teenage sidekick could have been a misfire, but I like Renzi Feliz as Vic Aguilar. Penguin obviously sees some of himself in him, another kid from the streets, and even though he did help to hide a body, then use that body in a bid to start a mob war, I actually don't want anything bad to happen to Vic. I know that this is Gotham City and nobody ever really gets away clean, but I like him. I understand why he's doing what he's doing, but I don't necessarily think that he's irredeemable, at least not so far. Of course, the big question is whether Batman is going to come into play in any way during the series. I don't expect Robert Pattinson to show up, but I wonder if they're going to nod to his emerging presence in Gotham City at some point. At the same time, Gotham is in a really bad place right now, and I think that the show could realistically depict a street-level gang war without Batman having to swing in and try to save the day. Unless the Penguin decides to, blow up the Gotham City aviary or train a bunch of vultures to attack the mayor, I don't necessarily think you need to get Batman involved here. I like Batman, I like crime shows, and I like Colin Farrell in this part, so the Penguin came in ahead on my scorecard, but I'm liking the vibe of the show so far. It does fall a little into cliche from time to time, but I think if they can keep constructing interesting scenarios and things that the Penguin has to work his way out of, filling in the backstory of the character, then this could be a spin-off from the Batman that stands on its own, but is also able to get the Penguin to a place so that he's a much more formidable foe the next time he comes face to face with the Dark Knight.
The world wasn't built for guys like us. That's why we gotta take whatever we decide is ours.
So on my personal scale, I don't have a whole lot to complain about when it comes to the Penguin. This is, of course, just through one episode, and it's the same caveat. Maybe the setup is better than the rest of the series, but it gets an It's Good rating right now, and it's another show, along with Agatha All Along, that I look forward to watching again next week, and I'll probably revisit both of these series at the end of their respective first seasons and do a full season wrap, unless it really goes off the rails or I totally lose interest, at which point I might not do that. So those are my thoughts on the premiere episodes of Agatha All Along and The Penguin. What did you think? Did you like these two spin-off shows? Let me know down in the comments below. And before we go, I'm going to thank the sponsor for this video, Factor. As the days get shorter and the temperatures drop, outdoor time is precious before winter sets in, so why waste that time making food? Factor's no mess, no prep meals deliver dietitian approved and chef-crafted food options that are ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so you can maximize outdoor time and still enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. Factor's meals are fresh, never frozen, and cater to your needs with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Each and every week, you'll have 35 meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from, and Factor has you covered from breakfast to dessert. And I'm not talking about leftovers here. I'm talking about restaurant-quality ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Whether you're looking to maximize your protein, manage your calories, or just eat well-balanced meals, you'll find something that works for you with Factor. No shopping, no prepping, no cooking, and no cleaning. Head to factormeals.com/Murrell50 and use code Murrell50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code Murrell50 at factormeals.com/Murrell50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching. Be sure to stay tuned right here for more movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until then, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.